Hi, everyone. Thank you so much to every single person in this room for coming out tonight. I know how busy you all are, so the fact that you're here means the world to me. Thank you so much to the entire Jericho community, the Hall of Fame committee for this huge honor, and a big congratulations to all my fellow inductees. I cannot even believe I'm sharing a stage with all of you. You are all so impressive. My whole life, whenever I say I'm from Jericho, the immediate response is, wow, that's one of the best school districts in the country. And I am always so proud to hear it. So to be one of 4 inductees into the Jericho Hall of Fame, it is just beyond humbling. And I was in this district K through 12, so this really is incredibly meaningful to me. And also, what a surreal feeling to be back here in Jericho, not only here in this town, but in this library, where I have so many fond memories. And East Birchwood, where we are now, happens to be the neighborhood I grew up in. My best friends and my high school boyfriend, whose mom is in the audience tonight, hi Arlene. They all lived in homes just a few minutes walk from mine, and it really was just the most special and meaningful community and upbringing. And it was an upbringing that really shaped the person I have become and had a major, major influence on my career path. I spent the past 12 years working as a news reporter. And this is really a full circle moment for me, because what many of you may not know is that I actually got my start in the broadcast world right here in Jericho, specifically right here in East Birchwood at Jackson Elementary School in 1997. Is Principal Rivera here? I know he was supposed to, there he is back there. Thank you, thank you. So when I was in 5th grade, Jackson started its first ever television station. It was a student-run program called Jackson Broadcasting Kids, or JBK Studios. And it was led by Mrs. Whitman and the late Mrs. Kramer, may she rest in peace. And they are teachers who will always hold a special place in my heart. There were 5 roles to fill for JBK Studios, 2 reporter positions and 3 anchor positions. Now, every kid in the grade was asked to try out. I remember being in the small studio room, and Mrs. Kramer and Mrs. Whitman asked me to report on any news story of my choosing. On the spot, I started talking about an invasion at our school. Aliens had raided the cafeteria, and the students banded together, and they cornered the aliens into the gym, and then we used dodgeballs to get the aliens out of the gym. We attacked them, and they eventually fled the building. Now, the suspects were on the loose, but the kids saved the day. Now, my enthusiasm and wild imagination somehow landed me one of the coveted reporter gigs. And my stories were soon broadcasted far and wide, all throughout every classroom of the Jackson Elementary School. Now, I'm lucky to actually still have copies of those reports, and if you type in Dana Arschin Jackson on YouTube, you can still watch them. And Mr. Waska, who I interviewed, is in the back tonight, and he had just completed a marathon, and he went off script. We were supposed to talk about the marathon, and he goes, and I got this medal, and that wasn't the script. And I go to him, I go, that's a very nice medal. And then we just started laughing, and that is on YouTube as well, so take a look. But to see you here tonight is amazing. Fast forward 13 years later, and I landed my first real-world reporting gig at News 12. It was an incredibly surreal feeling, and I remember calling my mom with excitement, screaming that I got the job offer. I spent 5.5 years as a one-woman show for News 12 in the Bronx and primarily Brooklyn. Driving, shooting, writing, narrating, recording myself, editing. I was fully a one-woman show. And after that, I spent the next 6 years at Fox 5 as a reporter and fill-in anchor covering New York City and the tri-state area. At Fox, I had the rare opportunity to start a Holocaust series where I would interview survivors all across our region and then share their stories with our viewers. My passion for this comes from my maternal grandfather, my papi. He is an Auschwitz concentration camp survivor. We just celebrated his 101st birthday. And if you can believe it, at 101, he's somehow more vibrant now than ever before. My poppy and my journey to Poland in 2018 inspired me to pivot to strictly telling Holocaust stories. This past September, I started a new role, which I created right here on Long Island. Through my company, DJK Communications, I am now working as the first ever storyteller for the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County. It's Long Island's only Holocaust museum located nearby in Glen Cove. Now I'm back to my one-woman show roots. I'm now shooting, writing, narrating, and editing short films, mostly on Holocaust survivors. Since September, I've interviewed 21 survivors. I produce not only short films, but also quick 30-second social media clips featuring survivors, which are posted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Some of these videos show the prisoner tattoos still visible on their arms, like my poppies. One video shows a prisoner holding up a yellow piece of cloth, the original star that her family was forced to sew onto their clothing in order to be easily identified as Jews. My goal with these videos is to educate younger generations and those who don't know much about the Holocaust. On Instagram alone, I've gotten nearly 1 million total views on my survivor clips in just the past few months. It's educational work that is more important now than ever before as we see a spike in anti-Semitism across the globe. We're also seeing Holocaust survivors pass away at alarming rates. Those who are still here are in their 80s, their 90s, and hitting the 100 mark and beyond, like my poppy. While I know this is my life's work and what I'm meant to be doing, I will always credit Jericho High School for helping to shape me into the person I've become. I always loved to write, and my AP Composition and AP Literature classes in high school definitely paved the way for my journalism career. I still remember sitting in Dr. Hartnett's AP class, where is he? And I went to visit Dr. Hartnett today, and he said to me, "You always love to argue with me in class." But he said it was good arguing, that I always liked to talk about all his crazy stories that he wanted us to read, and whether I agreed or not, we always discussed it, and I'm glad that you appreciated my participation. But I did always want to impress you with my arguments and my essays, but I guess that I didn't impress you as much as my favorite Spanish teacher, Miss Pryhockey, who actually married him, which is amazing that two of my favorite teachers wound up getting married. By the way, 18 years since I graduated high school, and I still keep in touch with Mrs. Pryhockey, who's here tonight. And Spanish, as some of you know, was always my favorite subject, and I actually originally went to college as a Spanish major, which I then combined with communications. And I remember, Ms. Pryhockey, you called me on the phone to tell me when I got 100 on the Spanish Regents. And it's teachers like you here in Jericho who go out of their way. Mr. Maraventano, where are you tonight? You came up to me at dinner to say you remembered exactly where I sat in your facing history class. And it's teachers like you who really leave such lasting impressions. And 18 years later, I still have all these memories that I'll never forget. Another teacher, Miss Hines, she didn't mention tonight, I thought you would, but I was in her first ever social studies class that you taught in 2001, her first year on the job, and we have stayed in touch ever since. I've also maintained special relationships with Mr. Zarrett, who couldn't be here tonight, but he texts me all the time. Mr. Waska, again, who's in the back, and so many other teachers who made my experience just so special and so personal. Admittedly, I was always a teacher's pet, but I am proud of it. In high school, I was in countless activities. I've never been the type of person that could sit still, and I was the president of the Spanish Honor Society and some other clubs. And those roles really taught me at a young age how to be a leader. When Ava, the amazing student who introduced me tonight, called me last weekend and asked for advice, I told her to always think outside the box. And if there's a job that you want to have and it doesn't exist, then create it for yourself. Anything is possible if you work hard for it and if you believe in yourself. That is the Jericho spirit, to lead by example, to always be proud of our roots, to always be super competitive with academics, but at the same time proud and supportive of our fellow peers. When I think back to the days of trying to remember locker combinations, walking through the school hallways with my friends, playing on varsity sports teams, and being part of a tight-knit community, They were some of the happiest days of my life, and they are days I will forever cherish and hold on to. Thank you all again for this incredible honor, and a very special thank you to my parents for choosing Jericho over any other town, strictly for the school district. It's true. And I've heard the story, but we could have got so much more for our money in a different town. But I get it. But you know what? I loved our East Birchwood home and the community. My dad and I would spend hours throwing a softball on the street in front of our house, turning me into his little tomboy while coaching all my little league teams. My mom was so strict. She would always smell my breath when I came home from a party to make sure that I wasn't drinking. In high school, I was one of just a few students in my senior class not allowed to go to the Bahamas senior year for spring break. Looking back now, after all the stories I heard, I fully understand their decision. But together, they always pushed me, both my parents, to put academics first and to be a person who always treated others with respect. I think I turned out okay, and there's no way I'd be on this stage without both of you here tonight. You guys can... My husband, Mike, who's the best Instagram husband, who's recording this right now, he has been my biggest cheerleader since day one, pushing me always to be entrepreneurial and to use my skill set differently in a way that I had never imagined before. And he always pushed me to do something different and something more. He is the best husband and the best daddy to our two beautiful girls, Harlow and Maya. Harlow turns 1 tomorrow, and Maya will be 4 in a few months. We live nearby in Port Washington, a town with a similar environment for my kids, a tight-knit community with a great school district, and we couldn't be happier there. To my Jericho family, old friends here tonight, and even new ones who I just met today for the first time, I know we will continue to make our Jayhawk community proud. I believe it is our responsibility to always remember where we came from and to keep the impressive Jericho reputation alive for generations to come. Thank you all so much, and go Jayhawks.